To see a woman walk in confidence, I don't think there is anything less powerful, really. So I think all women have the right to love themselves no matter what, and share that with the world, whether they're hitting the runways or writing blogs. I think it's beautiful.
Hey, welcome to Get Loved Up podcast. Today I am here with Lita Lewis, the Lita Lewis. I love and adore her. And I met her at Destination Fit Trip. How many years ago?
I'm saying at least 4.
At least 4 years ago. So welcome, Lita.
Thank you for having me.
I just got so excited when you finally said, okay, I can come today.
Finally.
I was nervous. I was like, wait a minute, is something going to happen? I was like, we can't move the location, like, whatever we do.
No, when I was told it was here, I'm like, I can do that. I can make that one happen. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. And I just want to deep dive on what you've been up to, because we haven't really we saw each other for a little bit, years ago.
Oh, and recently, just maybe last year.
But we didn't get to hang out.
Yeah, exactly.
So I need to know what you've been up to, like fitness-wise. You know, for those of you who don't see the video and just on audio, this woman looks like a goddess, sent down straight from heaven. So and what I think captivated me about you is just like how spiritually connected you are. And I think at Destination Fit Trip, and this was a retreat we did together, we knew of each other, but we really met each other on this trip. On the trip,
yeah.
And we sat down, and everything about mental, spiritual, and physical fit, we were just on the same page.
Yes.
And I felt a sister-like connection with you.
Yes.
And I kind of wanted to just talk about your journey to this space and kind of what you feel about that holistic connection right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the past 5-6 years, I've been in the fitness space, having left the corporate world to really pursue what it is that makes me feel happy and me feel whole, and fitness was very much part of that. What I found in these years is that what health and what wellness and what fitness really is to me is more than what we see in the mirror.
Right.
It's so much more about our spiritual self, our emotional self, our mental self. So the whole kind of this all-encompassing idea of mental, spiritual wholeness is how I was then defining what optimum health was for me. And then in sharing that definition and messaging around that idea on social media, then I found like there was a lot more people, women especially, they're like, oh yeah, that's how I define it. Because being a woman of a different type of shape or size that wasn't really coined as being like the fit or the beautiful in mass media, there was a lot of people like, I'm never going to be that. That's not my body type. That's not who I am. But you can't tell me that I'm not healthy or beautiful or strong or fast. And so I think I just became a voice for a body of people that were never going to fit into the social standard of what it was to be fit and beautiful in this world, but were wholeheartedly that. Right. And so my journey, if you will, is really about kind of being an advocate or a voice for women that live in the space of either being health and fitness professionals or health and fitness enthusiasts, and then just giving them kind of like motivation and aspiration as to what it is and what it looks like to be kind of like this wholeness of what, again, I'm defining as like optimum health.
Right. And was there ever a point where you felt like you wanted to be somewhere else, or you felt like you really didn't fit in?
Well, sure. You know, my history or my background sort of started in bodybuilding, competitive bodybuilding, and I trained as a women's figure competitor in the NPC organization. Right. Now, anybody that's familiar with the sport would know that it's a very extreme sport, you know, and I was doing things, taking things, following a really ridiculous diet, one I can call a ridiculous diet now. And then kind of still living in this space of health and fitness. But I knew what I was doing to my body wasn't healthy, and it wasn't something to be for longevity. And so there was a time then where I was sort of struggling with wanting to compete and then wanting to share a very authentic and genuine message. And I think then, to answer your question, there was a time where I'm like, oh, I don't really belong in this world. And not because I don't love the sport, it's because I just knew that there was key messaging that wouldn't align with really what I was doing to like be what I needed to be on that stage.
Right.
So there was a time where I thought, okay, this doesn't feel right for me. And then, next stage and next question, I asked myself, well, what am I going to do about it?
And so how long were you in that world?
Competing competitively, I think I competed just less than 2 years.
Okay.
But in 2 years, I competed 3 times.
Wow.
Because there's obviously, and a lot of time that you use what we call prep.
Right.
And you're prepping for X amount of months for a particular show. And then you might take a short break and then go right back into it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that time. I was in competitions at one time, too.
Oh, really?
And I was like, I know, most people don't know about it because I don't talk about it that much.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I did. I won a figure competition and a fitness model competition.
That's insane. I had no idea.
Yeah, and like you said, there is a separation because you're subject to these people judging you against other people.
Absolutely.
And so how is that? Because I know one big thing that I really talk about a lot is, cooperation over competition. And how does it make you feel like being on the stage, being compared to another woman? To win. I mean, that's what you got to do to win.
Yeah, I mean, if I could speak really transparently, I turned to bodybuilding when I was in a really unhealthy place in my life. I was using the gym. It was very much an addiction. Like, I would have to train every day, and if I didn't, I would feel some type of way, hence why I called it an addiction. And at the time, it was an unhealthy addiction. And I think what sort of introduced me to the sport was that somebody came over to me and said, oh, what show are you prepping for? Like, and I'm thinking, what are you talking about? And he's like, what show are you getting ready for? I said, oh, I'm not. I'm just training. He's like, oh, okay, my bad. I thought you were one of those, competitive girls. And I was like, oh, I have no idea what you're talking about. But he mentioned bodybuilding, and I went home and I Googled it. And I was like, oh, snap, this is what I want to do. So then channeling all my energy towards a specific goal became the goal. And then so, I didn't want to compete because I simply just wanted to. And it's something that I always aspire to doing. I did it because I had this kind of addiction going, and I figured, why not put a goal towards it? And so that's what it became. So it was never like, a goal that I had when I was a young girl or anything. I just knew that if I wanted to set a finish line, if you will,
Right.
that it had to be bodybuilding.
Right.
And then when I got there, I realized, I learned so much about myself, learned much more about my resilience. I learned about my body. But then when I had fulfilled that, I went through a journey of kind of finding myself also, from the inside out, not the outside. Then I didn't need bodybuilding anymore.
Right. Do you have any messaging for women there are a lot of women who are out there in bodybuilding?
Yeah.
And even in my, I know some people come to me for vegan bodybuilding and things like that. Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, I think, and I get a bunch of women ask me for advice in that world. And I think more than anything, I'd tell them, like, if you're going to do it, and be committed to it, do it 100%. Because there's no point in doing anything at 95%, especially when it comes to a very strategic and very calculated sport. And also just do it for yourself.
Right.
There shouldn't be any other reason that you sort of endure, and for a long period of time, extreme training, extreme dieting, for anybody in anything other than your own personal goals. Yeah.
That's amazing. So do it for yourself and, have a goal behind it.
Absolutely.
I love that. And so what did you transition to after that? Because I know we met at a retreat, and I know you did a couple of retreats on your own. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So, I guess after the bodybuilding phase of my life or my journey, I needed to then define what health was for me. Now, in that time frame of leaving bodybuilding and then sort of pursuing the other, I began to travel a lot. Meditation became a daily practice for me. I was the one that had multiple vision boards around my apartment. I would read often. what was really important is that I be connected. Like I was very much an excluded person, and in my own kind of healing, I felt like I needed to be by myself a lot. That worked for me, but then there came a phase where I was like, I just want to be around people and share good energy. In that phase, I did learn that who I wanted to share my energy with became really important. And then in that process, as I know so many people go through, you begin to lose friends.
Right.
And not because you become like somebody others don't want to be around, but you just become very, very intuitive of time and energy. And if there's people that are sort of doing things or wanting to do things that are outside your own personal goals or how you want to invest your energy, you tend to say, oh, no, thank you. Oh, no, actually, no, thank you, I'm busy. And then just slowly but surely you lose friends that way. But, friends being, just people to share time with. So again, redefining what health was for me and what body image was for me. And there came to a point where I literally just stopped fighting what I saw in the mirror and just said, this is who I am. And I should be proud of my training and proud of what I was putting through my body. And more so, and more importantly, I think what I was, my thought process and what I was telling myself became really important. Especially having read a lot, vision boards, words of affirmations. I mean, I had posters around my apartment. I just started to just really practice everything that I was, feeding and pouring into myself.
Right.
And then it just came to this idea that we need to start focusing on wanting to be like the next person or wanting to be what someone is telling us is supposed to be the picture perfect ideal of what a woman should look like if they're fit and strong and feminine. It really about ownership of self and finding peace in that and defining it for oneself. Right. And then I became sharing that on social media about what it was for me, and then just finding really a community of women specifically that were like, me too, and oh my gosh, and this is how this whole kind of loving thyself came about, and just really owning who you are, because as in loving yourself, it really is the foundation of so many beautiful things in your life. Right. And this became kind of my mantra, is to understand and to teach people that loving yourself is literally going to be the most ultimate tool to success.
I love that. Yes. And you mentioned healing, like you were going through a healing. What was it that happened to you that you feel like you were healing from?
Oh, many things. I think, ultimately the whole transition from the corporate world into the industry of health and fitness.
And what did you do before?
I worked in an online media and advertising company.
Oh, okay.
In New York. Was a heartbreak, being with somebody and kind of, labeling them as your person, and then mentally thinking and visualizing what kind of life you're going to have with this person, and then that person just disappointing you and essentially breaking your heart to where like that whole dream just shatters into a million pieces, and then finding what it is to be happy again, or what life is supposed to be like, having been married to that idea. And in that growth process also, I learned that we should never be married to an idea that is outside of ourselves.
So this job was, you felt married to this job?
Well, not the job at all, the actual person. The
okay.
relationship that I was in that then kind of defaulted to nothingness, because I had to then leave the relationship.
Right, when you moved.
When I I was still with him and I worked corporate.
Oh, okay.
Then heartbreak struck. And then I was like, what is life? And I would sort of, march to work and do what I was supposed to do, and then go home and cry myself to sleep every night. So like getting myself out of depression is then when I turned to the gym. The gym then became the addiction, right? Then led to bodybuilding. That then led me finishing bodybuilding and then finding out how I need to redefine what healthy looked like and felt like. Right. And then now in this space where I had to leave corporate and then pursue a dream in health and fitness and inspiring other women to find that for themselves.
So it's beautiful. It's almost like that helped you transition to where you are now.
Absolutely.
Like even though you didn't stay with it, but it helped you get the strength to like really transition to something and to finding yourself.
For sure.
And so now I see you on social media with a juicy relationship.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And so tell me a little bit about finding Mr. Right.
Yeah, finding him.
For right now.
Finding him was funny. We met in New York City randomly at Whole Foods.
Hey, Whole Foods.
Yes,
hey.
Whole Foods. I used to be like, Whole Foods takes all my money, but then I guess it paid me back.
Hey.
So
I'm going to Whole Foods today.
Right? Yeah. Go to Whole Foods. So wonderful man, wonderful gentleman. It's funny, we became really good friends first and foremost. Well, like, he was a very handsome man, so I was very much attracted to him. But, like, you know, he had a very colorful story, if you will. You know, he has 4 children to now, like, a previous marriage. And I remember thinking, like, he's an amazing person. I really enjoy his company, but I'm like, surely, girl, you don't need a man with 4 kids. Like, in my mind, I'm like, what you manifest and what you sort of dream of doesn't normally associate itself with, like, already like a you know, prefixed family already. Right. So in my back of my mind, I think there was something where I was like, you know, enjoy his company, help him, be helped by him, because we really would just like help each other mentally and spiritually through a lot. And then I guess love just kind of like infiltrated this whole like idea of like a platonic relationship, and it became what it is today. And a beautiful thing about Guy, his name is Guy, I say that Guy, he's my guy, is that I know that the person that I am isn't his norm. So this idea of like finding somebody to be very spiritually grounded, and be very, very aware of my own energy and those around me. Just a little thing about food, nutrition, like everything is like, really, you'd eat that, or really, must you chime those things, or little things like, what's all these crystals about, you know? I think that I'm also very foreign to him, so I'm exposing him to something different, and then he too is exposing me to something very different. One big thing of that is kind of stepping into parenthood and being what I call a bonus mom, and how to really operate from that place, because that's all been very foreign to me till very recently.
And how has that been?
Interesting. I don't know how to answer that. Like, it's exhausting. It's beautiful. I feel like I'm a student, I should say. Like, I'm always constantly learning from these children. I've always kind of prided myself at being a very patient person, but being around young children like takes that to a whole nother level. So it's increased my patience. I'm trying to be more understanding as it pertains to their mother. My individual relationships for these 4 little individuals, and it's also made me kind of really look at myself as a leader, a role model, an educator, because now more than ever, like, everything that comes out of my mouth needs to be very mature and very responsible.
So you have a huge level of responsibility.
Yeah.
How long has it been now you've been in the relationship with Guy?
I've known Guy for 3 years, and the children have been in my life for I mean, it's well over a year, maybe a year and a half, and then we've had full custody of them for at least 6 months, you know. So 6 months, when I say that, it feels like it's already been like several years. I don't know, but it's just been 6 months. But, you know, becoming like a full-time, you know, co-parent has been interesting. I would keep using this word interesting, because it's like all these facets of that, but it has definitely tested me as a person, but in the most beautiful way.
And you said custody, so you have to have custody.
Meaning that you know, they're in our care full time, like they live in our home.
Okay. And not with mom.
No.
Okay, so that must be, so that's a full-time job, right?
Girl, you already know.
I don't have a clue, girl. I'm just like, what? I mean, so full-time, and you also do training. You still do your work, or are you still doing your own personal work, or is it more full-time mom?
No, what's great is that Guy understands that I have my own career, and it's important for me to pursue that, because I'm sure you could probably relate. Our careers we're blessed with them because we love what we do. It's not like I have to do this to make money, like I have to do it. Like, no, we get to, and we get compensated for it. So it's like, he knows that about me, and perhaps there's things that take up my time that I don't necessarily need to do, but this is what I love to do, and this was already a part of kind of the package that he sort of bought into also.
Right.
So I do pursue my career full time, wholeheartedly, and then share responsibilities with him. So he, to his credit, is really the full time parent, you know, and does virtually almost everything on his own, and I credit him for that. And he is a phenomenal father, which I've learned from as well. But I do still pursue work like full time. Yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so what does work look like for you these days?
Work between personal training, because that's always something I've loved to do, and all my clients I'm like good friends with. There are the spring and summertime tours. I go around the country and I lead the fitness workshops that I do throughout the year. And then, as you're aware, I do an annual retreat every year and somewhere in the world that I'm like really passionate about.
Right.
And as you know, as in the influencer space of health and wellness, there's certain campaigns we work on, places that we need to show up and sit panels and expos and festivals. So I mean, this is what work really looks like for me these days.
And how many like one-on-one clients can you take?
I mean, can I take? I mean, I really consider myself more part-time trainer,
Right.
Because I never wanted to get like locked into anything that took my majority of my day,
Right.
So I was like, say, I'm not going to say locked into a gym, because I very much love being around the people I work with.
Yeah.
But it was important for me when I left corporate that I freed up my time.
Right.
Because this, you know, as we manifest the life that we want to live, it was like I want to have my time back.
Right.
And still find a balance to earn a living and then time, right?
Right.
So I'd say I work as a trainer, personal trainer part-time. And I consciously don't take any more than, say, 8 to 10 clients at any given time.
Okay.
You know?
And what advice do you have? Because I started personal training and I love being a personal trainer. I mean, that's not what I wanted to do full time, and I don't do that much now anymore. But what advice would you give like someone who is a personal trainer, and how to really make that career work for themselves?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, and especially in this time, personal training can look very oversaturated.
Right.
These days, most people aren't taking the time to get a certification or learn more about movement and the body. A lot of people aren't or haven't come from an athletic background. So anybody with some great abs would be like, I'm a trainer. I can train you. I think what's important first and foremost is to educate yourself and do what's needed to be a certified trainer. I think also, you know, in a world where there are a lot of us,
Right.
then to really understand that you're not necessarily selling your services, because we're not reinventing the real wheel, right? We all know how to build lean muscle, how to lose weight, but to really sell yourself, sell your energy, and be really genuine about wanting to help people first and foremost. I think as a personal trainer, I like to consider myself a resource of somebody that needs guidance.
Right.
So there's the training aspect of movement, but there's also the guide or the teacher or the friend. And so that human aspect, I think, makes a really, really great and beautiful trainer. So that's the advice I'd give to somebody, to really understand your own energy and sell yourself as opposed to, say, your services.
Have you noticed, you know, in the space of holistic health and wellness, that there is, you know, more that's needed, you know, to really reach the community?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because that an event actually comes to mind. To literally be
You went
women
to
of
an
color.
event, right?
Yeah.
Like, you went to this event.
And I was blessed to be there.
Right.
But immediately I'm like, oh, there's not many of us.
Right.
And so in the halls, and because it's kind of like college, they set it up because there's lectures here, and a timetable and what you can make, and yoga sessions and meditation and like sound healing sessions. It's
Right.
everywhere. It's beautiful. But this, in every room you realize, oh, there's not many of us.
Right.
And
How
as you
many
walk
do
through
you
the years-
remember? Was it like 2 or 3 or 4 or?
Pardon me. In the main hall, I would count it less than 5%.
Right.
But then there's definitely part of me that's like, I like to see my own reflection in front of me when I'm teaching, leading,
Right.
talking, because I feel like we need it.
Right. And what do you feel like as far as inclusivity? Do you feel that there has been an effort in the space, especially in the fitness space, and like you said, some of the wellness events that have been coming, you know, do you still feel like, hey, it's only still 2 or 3 of us, or maybe I'm the only one? How do you feel about that? And how does it make you feel to be like, okay, I'm this instructor and maybe I only got invited because of my color, because they need diversity? Do you feel that a lot?
I was only made aware of it at that particular event. Mm-hmm. So now, because it's triggered something in me, I've become very sensitive to those in leadership around me in any given space now. Mm-hmm. I felt like, I just simply felt like I was gaining so much. The experience itself was so amazing. Mm-hmm. Not just for the workouts I was doing, but the meditation, the lectures were insanely enriching. That like literally every person that I love or in this space that we call health, fitness, wellness, like I'm like, oh my gosh, if everybody could be there, they would gain so much from this, and then take back to their own communities. Mm-hmm. And there was one particular lecture I had to make, and I remember missing something else that I wanted to be a part of because of the conversation. But it was like I believe it was titled "Wellness in Whiteness." Mm. And they were making an effort of saying, hey, we understand this is white, this is privileged, this is only accessible by a very specific group. Right. That's not us. Right. And then saying, how do we be well? How do we call ourselves XYZ in the space of wellness when everybody else isn't? Because, you know, wellness to me is also a community-driven, you know, practice. Mm-hmm. So literally, how can I be well if everybody in my neighborhood, like, is obese, has no idea about the benefits of meditation, is, you know, like all these things. I'm not well. So for the first time, it triggered in me this idea of being very aware and conscious of who I am as a Black woman, and what I want to do with my life in making the lives of others better, and being very, very, very genuine about wanting to do that. And then understanding, oh, I'm a privileged Black girl here. Like, I'm very lucky and blessed to be here. And then thought, wow, I need to be a part of something else for my community. So it sparked something, and that was only of maybe a few months ago, that I think that the more that we, like people like you and I, talk about it, perhaps it could be something, you know, in the future. Yeah, I think so. And I think it does help me as well, just to be ignited by other people wanting to do the same thing and sharing the conversation, because I feel like conversation is healing in and of itself. So it's just having this conversation about, okay, this is what's needed. So how do we create this? Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that is the start. And then sharing that conversation, because a lot of times I feel like that's the benefit of social media. Like, a lot of people say a lot of bad things about it, but the benefit is that we're all talking. And then when we're talking about the same thing, we can then connect. So if you leave out all of the comparison and the, you know, 12 hours, 14 hours on social media, and really focus on the connection and how can we come together to create something that works for everyone, to work for a community, I feel like it's a beautiful thing. Amen. I think a lot of times people have the fear that, can I really be successful? You know, do I have what it takes? And I feel like you've always had the confidence, from what I've seen, to be like, okay, yeah, you just do it. And you created these t-shirts and you have your own slogan. So can you share a little bit, and your background is in marketing, so can you share a little bit about what it means to create a personal brand and how to go about that? Yeah, I think first and foremost, people need to sit with themselves. Like, how do you find yourself? And it's a question I ask a lot, is like, who are you? Like, who are you outside of being someone's daughter or someone's wife, or someone's best friend, or someone's mother? Like, who are you? And I think that gets really difficult for some women to answer, which is okay, because a lot of people label themselves all these other things that have always been external. But how do you define yourself? You know, a lot of my own personal inner work has been really to sit with myself and be like, who am I? And then now that I have a very clear idea of what that is, and of course I'm always evolving and changing, as you know, as we grow, I know who I am, so it's really hard for somebody to tell me who I am and who I'm not, because I know, and
Right.
I know that my knowing is the truth, you know.
Right.
So I think what's really important is to first understand who you are unwaveringly. Like, you can't be shook. You know and define who you are for yourself. I think that is key in all aspects and all facets of life.
Right.
And this is something that everybody needs to start with.
What if people are like, I don't know who I am? Like, I've been a mother all my life, or I've been, the caretaker of my grandparents all my life. Like, how do I figure it out? I just have no clue.
It's almost like how do you do self-care?
Yeah.
And my answer to that is pretty simple, actually. Like, who I am is deeply connected with happiness. It's that simple. I don't like to complicate things too much. I have to
So
keep
what
it
makes you
simple.
happy?
Exactly. So that's why.
that.
So what makes you happy? If being a mother makes you happy, right? That is a beautiful thing, and I am a cheerleader for that. But then being a mother is much more than that. It means you're a caretaker.
Right.
You're a nurturer. So these are different labels outside of being someone's mom. So outside of a child, if you saw somebody else's child or somebody else's mother in need of help and care, your nature is to want to help, and that's who you are. Sort of defining or answering the question, what makes me happy, can help you get to that answer for you, and it's going to be different for all of us.
I love that. And my mom used to say that all the time. Are you happy, Koya? Are you happy? But you're doing this, but are you happy? And that is such a beautiful message. I think so too. Just to ask people, are they happy? And then spirituality. I kind of feel like that's how we connected, and Destination Fit Trip, and just really just sharing your spirituality, and how do you define spirituality, first of all, and kind of your journey with your connection with spirit.
Ooh, I think after so much reading and so much travel, I think spirituality can be really defined in a lot of different ways, a lot of complex ways. Right. I think for me, I'm always trying to simplify everything, because if it's not simple, I can't connect with it. And I think for me, spirituality really is an essence of ourselves connected to our Creator, and that relationship, that personal relationship. So I understand my spirituality be very, very different from yours and the next person and those that are listening. My spirituality is based on my love of God, my Creator. It's also kind of also including of those that I care and love the most in this world and in this lifetime, which are my family, my sisters, my parents, my nephew, my brother-in-laws, and things of this nature. This here is kind of like a vortex, if you will, of how I define happiness and how I define myself and how I define my existence in this space, in this world, in this time. Right. And that whole relationship, how it all bounces off one another. And it really core-centered to God and our energies given and our talents given from our Creator. So I don't know if that does sound complicated, but that essentially is how I kind of see it visually, my spirituality.
That's beautiful. And one question that I ask every single guest is, how do you get loved up? So how do you love yourself? How do you love others? And how do you love the world?
That is a great question. How do I love myself? I think I love myself in many ways. I think one of them I'm doing right now is to give my time and energy to things that I care about and I love. Connecting with people that I care about, that I love, that I also see as reflections of myself. I think, how do I love myself? I honor myself. I'm giving myself time to be patient, to be still, to love myself, so I know I can go out in the world and love others. And how do I do that? I love to sit still. Some people call it meditation. I often call it meditation. I like to do these in environments that I love and that make me happy, which is in nature, all different types of nature. Personally, I love a lush green jungle kind of atmosphere.
That sounds amazing.
I'm definitely the person to want to take my shoes off and put my toes in the sand and feel the earth. These are the type of things that I do to love myself. How do I love others? In doing the things that I love, do to love myself, I then like to, if not push what I like on love and what makes me happy on others, but expose new experience to people that may be unfamiliar to my own practices. And I simply love others as they are. I've learned in my journey not to love in a way to change them so I can then love them, but then really focusing on the reasons why I love that person and letting that be my focus versus wishing that person was a little bit different so I could love them, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
How do I love the world is just both those two things combined, right? And just really understanding. And my mother always says, and I know she's taken this from a book from Dr. Wayne Dyer, who's one of my favorites. And I believe he might have quoted it from somebody else, a philosopher, if you will. But it's like, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience, but we are all spiritual beings just having a human experience. So a lot of the times when I'm in the company of others, I'm not necessarily seeing you in your flesh, in your hair, in your clothes. Like, I'm like, oh, I get a sense of Koya's energy and it's beautiful. And I think that I sort of take that in the world, and because I am radiating that I like to think the law of attraction is real, and that we're just attracting those that to us that we can love, and essentially loving the world that way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. And I love that quote as well. Just, you know, spiritual beings having a human experience and, you know, connecting with other people. And I think that's what we felt when we connected. Like, it's such a spiritual connection.
Girl, you already know.
So
I think I remember we were over a meal.
Yeah, we had dinner.
like a conversation. Yeah, and I was like, okay, tribe. We're definitely aligned.
Exactly. It was almost like I could still, when I think of you, I visualize that moment that we sat and had dinner and really connected. And so just where can people find you? Share where people can find you and what you have coming up that they should check out.
Thank you. I think on social media across all boards, I'm follow the Lita. As you know, my name is spelled Lita. My website is litalewis.com. As you mentioned earlier, I do have my own apparel line, which is all just really empowering messages we can wear.
Can you share some of the names? Because that's so much fun.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, it was really about body empowerment and body positivity. So in a time where like my thighs were apparently too big for the stage, it was like kind of like learning how to love my thighs. So things like thick thighs save lives and love thyself are really kind of key things that people, you know, I love it when you call me thick mama. You know, a lot of people
love it.
The little things like that are quirky and fun and empowering for women.
Do you feel like the women empowering movement is going the right direction, or what do you feel about it? Because it's been a lot. It's been a lot.
It's interesting. I've been asked that. It's funny from men. Like, what is your take on, like, you know, larger women, you know, really loving themselves and like, and then making the catwalks and kind of like infiltrating high fashion. And I think, you know, my surface answer is like, it's a beautiful thing. To see a woman walk in confidence, I don't think there is anything less powerful, really. So I think all women have the right to love themselves no matter what, and share that with the world, whether they're hitting the runways or writing blogs. I think it's beautiful. This idea of like, well, people celebrating obesity now becomes another question. Now, I personally know larger women or bigger women, if you will, that are models, are gorgeous women that work out 5 days. Probably work out more than I do, but their frame is their frame. Now, I understand obesity. I understand, you know, body fat, but like, what is healthy and what isn't? I think there's no real definition, I think, that can kind of umbrella everyone. So like, although I'm all for women living in their most radiant and positive nature and sharing that regardless of their size, you know, there might be a conversation about, okay, so what does it look like, or how do we define health for one another, or in like ourselves, if you will? Then those numbers and those metrics are going to be really different for everyone. So I think the bottom line is, I think it's a beautiful thing, you know, and I think all women should, you know, share confidence and truly be themselves 100%, and always work towards, and I say this all the time, becoming the best versions of themselves.
Absolutely. And I like you said, it's about being healthy, because even a smaller woman can be that small but not eating, not getting enough nutrients and you know, so on. It could go both ways. And so it's very interesting that people focus on obesity, but are you focusing the same amount on obesity as anorexia? Because those are two extremes. And there can be healthy people that are small, there can be healthy people that are bigger, and there can also be unhealthy people on each end of the spectrum, if you will. And so I love just the focus on health. That's healthy mentally, spiritually, and physically, which is how we connected. Yep. So thank you so very much for sharing all of your information. We just do a heart at the end and toss it out to our people. Awesome. Until next time, get loved up.
Hey.